Thank you.
Drinking frothy coffee.
Hi everyone, in this in-betweeny Christmas New Year phase, I wanted to have a chilled out, sit down chat about books, and I thought I would talk about the best books that I read in 2023. Now, I haven't read masses of books, I've read about 30, and I don't only read new releases, and I read all sorts of different things, so there's some old, some new, different topics. They are actually all non-fiction, which I'm really pleased about, because one of my goals this year that I talked about in my last video, so one of my goals for 2023 was to read more non-fiction. So clearly I enjoyed the ones that I read because I've given them 5 stars. Yeah, if you wanted to see the books that I have read this year, you can follow me on Goodreads, my link is below, and I put a star rating and then a really brief review. It's like 1 sentence. I'm really aware that when I film up here, I'm lining up straight here, but then that means that the art, the photo here is wonky. I just had to refilm because the sun flare, so the blinds are closed. It's imperfect, it doesn't matter. Also, the family are all in, so you might hear noises. My husband's already been up to deliver me a coffee, which is very nice of him. The books that I'm going to be talking about today, I'll put links below to my bookshop.org page as well. From there you can see the blurbs of these books and all of that. That is an affiliate link. If you'd like to buy a book from there, then I get a small commission, but there's no obligation. It's just there so that you can find all the information about the books that I'm talking about. If they're on bookshop.org, which they're not always, but they are usually. And on my shop you can see my previous years as well of the books I've read each year. So if you want to have a little explore of that, then you can do. Right, the first book that I wanted to talk about today is this one, The Currency Paradigm by Hilary Augustine. And this feels like such good timing to start with this one. They're just in date order of when I read them, and I read this at the start of the year. The reason why this feels really timely, so first of all, I consulted on this project with Hilary, so I helped her through the publishing process. We had a number of consulting calls, and I have literally just launched my official consultancy part of my website. In the past, such as with this book, it was a sort of informal, if someone asked I would do it, rather than me advertising that I do it, but it's official. I do now consult if anybody would like me to. Yeah, so that's really nice that this was a book that I was involved in, so I had to get a copy, yeah, I was really thrilled to read it. But also, I spoke to Hilary just last week because we've started chatting about something new, and I'm helping her through a new process, so it's really cool. It's so nice to be talking about this after I spoke to her just last week. So yeah, her picture is on the back, there she is. And she says on here, Hilary is a dream doula, financial guide and executive coach. Basically, she is a business coach, and she has come up with this paradigm where she goes beyond just thinking about financials, just trying to sort of make more money and minimise your costs, and think about a more holistic approach. So what she has images to support them. I'm trying to make sure I'm starting with the right one. I think I am. Yeah. Time. And then money. There's 4. Energy and space. So she talks about, you know, how those are relevant, how they interact, why we need them, and then sort of guide you through realising which of those you have in abundance, which of those you don't, and how to improve that, you know, how to make sure that the ones, you make the most of the ones that you have, and then you work on those that you don't. And it's fascinating. So you find out, she has kind of her own language amongst it, and what's your North Star currency, you have like a what's the word, an equation that to sort of figure out where you are. And for me, it's not a long book, but I read this and went away with a bigger picture of my business and my attitude toward business, and I felt like I really got something from this book. I'm not just featuring it because I was involved in it. If it wasn't one of my favourite books, I wouldn't say. I genuinely really like this, and I love that I'm starting off with a business book. As I say, it's not very long, and if you would like to think about your business in that bigger way, I definitely recommend having a look at this and thinking about what your priorities are and what you already have. And I think that is just really, really interesting. So I liked it a lot. So that's my first one. Next one that I enjoyed this year was this one, Turning the Tide on Plastic by Lucy Siegle. So this book was fairly new. I think it came out at Christmas last year, if I remember rightly, or New Year, thereabouts. And I got a copy pretty much straight away. But this one is an older one, and I've wanted to read it for some time. It came out in 2018. And Lucy Siegle is a journalist, I think, if I remember rightly. Could have that wrong, but I think she is. And this book, so it says how humanity and you can make our globe clean again. So I treated myself to this and I loved it. So she goes through kind of her, like, plastic in her lifetime. So our attitudes to plastic, what it was like when we were young, what it's like now. And she talks about the biggest plastic issues. So there's stuff about the sea in there. She talks about manufacture and all sorts of stuff. For me, the facts she has in here, there was a lot of stuff I didn't know. And I engage in this topic, and I'm a biology teacher. I'm interested in environmental stuff. And there was a lot in there that I didn't know. So I love that. I enjoy reading a non-fiction book where I'm going, interesting. So I like that. Also, there is a huge part of this book that goes through how to make things better. And so rather than just giving a state of affairs, it also gives, here's what we can do. And that feels really, really important. So, yeah, it's a call to action. It's full of really compelling evidence and information, and very, very good. I really recommend that one. Next up was this one, Getting Better by Michael Rosen. I bought this because I was going to see him do a talk at St Mary's Art Centre in Sandwich, and I'd never read one of his adult books. I've read children's books and his poems in the NEU, so the National Education Union magazine. So I know of his work, but I had never read one of his longer books. So this is about kind of coping with lots of things, largely through the lens of him getting COVID. He was in a coma for a long time, very, very sick. But he also talks about things like the loss of his son, just coping with difficult things in life, and he talks about how he got through them. And I love his writing. His use of language, it's not flowery, it's not, there's not an excessive word, and it's not sentimental, it's just, this is what happened, and just with the most beautiful choice of words. It's not mawkish, it's like simple and elegant, and I love it. I love his writing. No, we're not related. I went up to him after the event and was like, we're not related. He was like, I'm aware of that, crazy lady. One of the bits I loved in this book, oh look, his picture is in here too. All of these have got pictures. His picture, her picture, her picture. Anyway, he, in the end of it, talks about how writing can help, and he talks about the process of unfolding. So how he finds that writing, not for publication, just the process of writing, sort of helps you to identify how you're feeling and work your way through it and unfold the problem. And I really, really identify with that. When I wrote my book Milk, that's exactly how it felt. And I think writing is really cathartic and really helpful and important. So yeah, I really liked it. I really love his writing, and it's a real insight to COVID as well and the care he got. And I tell you what, if you get a chance to see him live, I mean, it was very emotional. He's amazing, really just funny and interesting. Just, yeah, very much recommend. I enjoyed that one. Next up, oh, it's downstairs. I'll put a picture up. Amazon Ads for Authors by Deb Potter. I picked this up because I wanted to learn more about Amazon Ads. It's very accessible. It just goes through, this is how it works. This is how you choose your targeting and your, you know, how do you set it up and how do you make choices and what do the different things mean. Very matter of fact and useful. I must say that since giving it 5 stars at the time, I still haven't got a handle on my ads. I would love to make videos explaining more about ads, but I don't feel like it's not working for me yet. So, although I found it very useful, it hasn't translated into my ads working yet. Maybe I need to read some more stuff. You know what, if you have some useful information, links, books about Amazon Ads, please do put them below because I would love to know more. But yeah, very accessible, to the point, just good information, well explained. And it's updated every single year. The next one is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I really enjoyed this. So she talks about creativity, and one of the biggest things she talks about is the idea of your creative work sort of coming to you, which is something I find fascinating. The idea of the blank page becoming something, and you are sort of a conduit for these ideas that are flitting around and they find you. I'm not someone who's particularly sort of woo-woo, but I can really identify with what she's saying in this, and I feel it. I love the way she talks about creative ideas and the stories she has about somebody else wrestling with an idea and it not working out and then it finding her, or her struggling with something and it going and then her finding out somebody else has worked on that. The idea that these ideas have like they're a real thing rather than sort of a thought process. Just find that a really interesting idea. I really like Elizabeth Gilbert's style of writing as well, so I really liked it, and I think if you're a creative person it's worth a read. Next up, I don't have it because I've lent it to my mother-in-law, Landlines by Raynor Winn. This is the 3rd book that she's written, and it's about, so the original one, The Salt Path, that I'm sure you guys have heard of, I've talked about it enough, is about her and her husband losing their home. He gets a terminal diagnosis and they decide to walk the Salt Path, which goes around the southwest of England. This one, the 3rd book, they decide to do a walk in Scotland, and that ultimately translates in them walking all the way back to Cornwall. And this one has to be on a par with the Salt Path, if not maybe even better. I loved it. It's fascinating her talking about her husband's illness, the way she writes about walking and about meeting people, and just the sort of the slowing down of life and the conversations with people and the listening to people and people helping each other out. I really love it. Her first book talked a lot about homelessness. This one focuses more on the idea of borders. So I think there may be some people who politically might find it difficult. I personally loved what she wrote. So she does give her own ideas and thoughts, as you would in a book about what you're doing and thinking about when you're walking. So I think it gives, you know, colour to what she's talking about, but I've seen some reviews that criticise it. I just think you don't want to read a book that's just about walking. You want to read about the person and their interactions and their thoughts and feelings. So yeah, I loved it. I think it's a fantastic book. All of her books are very, very good, but the 1st and the 3rd are the best. So loved it, really, yeah. All of these are highlights. As I'm talking about them, I'm like, oh, that was the best one I read. They're all fantastic. They're all the best one. Then I read A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. I don't think I've actually reviewed this in a, you know, books I've read recently video. I might put it in the beginning of next year when I review some recent ones. this I have wanted to read for so long. Obviously, it's a super old book, published in, I don't know, 1945, I think it says. Sorry, I haven't got my glasses on. And I had a student who loved Virginia Woolf at school, in my tutor group, and I used to get them to do presentations on things they were interested in every week. So everybody would take it in turns, and she did a presentation about Virginia Woolf. I knew nothing about Virginia Woolf. I knew the name, that's it. And I was fascinated, and in particular she loved this book, and I was like, I must read it. Hadn't got around to it until now, and I'm really glad that I did. So she talks about women as fiction writers, and the idea that one must have, I think she says £10,000. I can't remember the amount of money, but money and a room of one's own. The idea that for many women you wouldn't have a space of your own. Your husband might have a study or a space he goes to, but you probably don't. And in these times wouldn't have your own money. It was, you know, family income, your husband's money. You didn't have your own independent wealth, and that you needed those things. But I think this all still translates today. The idea that you need, even going back to what Hillary's talking about, time and space and money and the facilities to think and to, you know, to have the space and the time, basically, which are afforded by having money and like a literal room, and that it also kind of ethereal space in terms of someone enabling you that time and space to write. That felt rambly. I hope it made sense. So yeah, she talks about it in the context of when she was writing, but obviously still relevant now. She has quite a rambling way of writing, like a stream of consciousness kind of writing. I really like it. It's obviously not super long. It's based on, I think, some talks that she gave that then turned into this published work. Very, very good. Definitely recommend if you are interested in feminism and writing and creativity, which I very much am, because I think lots of women are involved in creative, small creative businesses, but we lack time, we often lack money. It's tricky, and as you know, I talk about these things on here. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that one. Last but not least is What Nature Does for Britain by Tony Juniper. I went to a bookshop in Bristol, and I was looking at this, and my friend said, oh, I know that guy, and I've read that book, it's good. So I went, okay, I will buy it. And I really enjoyed it. So basically each chapter, Tony talks about an interaction with somebody about something to do with the environment. So it might be a farm or a lake or a whatever, you know. He talks about kind of a conversation or an instance and then he goes into more detail about the ins and outs of that thing. So he talks about various different environments that we have in the UK, what is at risk, what's being done to improve them, and so it's not all doom. There's a lot of positive change in there too. So it's very interesting looking at where we are. This isn't slightly older book too. When was it published? 2015. So where we were then, what options there are, and the pros and cons of those, and where we could go, and what the biggest threats are. Very, very interesting. Some really interesting ideas that people are working on to improve our environment. And yeah, just found it hopeful, as well as obviously kind of going, look at the state that we're in, but there was a lot of hope in there. So yeah, this was a good one too. So I think some great books for 2023. If you're interested in reading these, I would recommend them. Obviously, it's always subjective. If you have read any of them, I would love to know what you thought. As I said at the start, it's all linked below, so if you want to find out more about these books, do take a look. This is my last video of 2023. So I will see you in 2024 for a whole load of stuff around launching my new book, because that's now the content I'm going into. So exciting, slightly nervous. It's been a great year. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me. It's a privilege to make these videos and to chat to you guys. So yeah, thanks for everything, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Do hit like if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe for lots of exciting content in 2024. Happy Christmas, belated Christmas, and Happy New Year. Take care.